So John, SLictionary is a funny name. How'd you come up with it? What's SLictionary?
So I wrote a program when I was in high school, and it was basically one of the first spell checkers. Now, very brilliant people in Silicon Valley were already doing spell checkers all the way back in the 60s, but my spell checker learned. So it read a paragraph that was, you would hand it on the little mini computer we had in 87, this would have been about. And it read the first word, the. And it said, well, is the spelled correctly? You would ask the person. And if the person said yes, then the would go in as the correct spelling. So you could go through something like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, and it would start to learn what the correct spelling was as the human being kept saying, well, that's the right one, that's the right one. And we stuck a paragraph in, and this was our term paper, so we worked all semester on it in high school, and with a very good teacher, and it broke the computer. And that kind of model, I call it kind of self-learning, because it's humans plus the algorithm, is with each and every interaction is learning. And after a lot of people use it, you end up with a really good spell checker that not only is a good spell checker for normal words, but you could invent like vernacular that you have with your friends, and it would learn that too. Or it would learn how your name is spelled, or how your friend's weird Polish name is spelled, or something like that. It would just generally learn. And I kind of stole the concept from a software model called Animal. And I just talked to a guy, I think he worked at Lotus 123, I don't know where you are, but you would have probably remembered it because it was actually the first computer virus. And the first computer virus called Animal was basically 21 questions, but for animals. And to me, it was the first self-learning piece of software I'd ever seen, because at the very end of this computer would say, guess an animal, you'd think of, okay, leopard, and it would start trying to quiz you with questions like, is it bigger than a cat? Is it yellow? Does it have spots? And you'd answer all the questions, and it would guess, is it a fox? No. But then at the end, it would say, well, tell us a question that could be answered true or false that would tell us, that would make sure that we know to guess leopard next time. And when you entered the question, the next guy that played, if he thought fox, the program Animal was going to get it. And it just amazed all these college students. My mom worked at like a little studio, and she had an Apple II in her back room. And the students would come in and like, how does this thing know the animal? And then like my friend did leopard, and it didn't know, and then I did it, and it knew. Like everybody was amazed, right? So it just stayed in my head for a really long time. I used it to make the self-learning spell checker. And then when I started learning about Bitcoin and what it can really do with micropayments and these little tiny interactions that could be a penny or a fraction of a penny, I realized you could build an economic version of particle swarm optimization where an algorithm plus people, lots of people, can make something better than any of us can possibly do by ourselves. So then I looked into the history of dictionaries, and I found that the first commercial dictionary by Mr. Webster, who eventually became Merriam-Webster's, he literally just wrote the whole thing. It took him 8 years, and I think he put 20,000 definitions in the dictionary. It was 2 volumes. And he started making lots of money. And then Oxford, there's a whole movie about this called The Professor and the Madman. Oxford saw this, and they got kind of jealous. Like, oh, these damn Americans, like, we're Oxford, we're like the premier university. Why is Americans create the first English dictionary? And so this movie where Mel Gibson plays the professor who finally solves the problem, and I got chills when I just saw the movie for the first time. Everybody kept telling me, oh, you're running a dictionary, you should watch this movie. And I just watched it 2 months ago, even though the company's been around for like a year. And I watched it, and I practically broke down into tears because I was like, holy mackerel, the world's most venerable English dictionary, the Oxford English Dictionary, was basically written by a person in an insane asylum. Because what the guy did is he said, all the English professors in England cannot catch up, so how do we do this? So he put out a flyer in England. This is like early 1800s, right? He puts out this flyer all around England, and he says, anyone who wants to define a word, mail it to us. There's no computers. They're literally writing, mail. with like, oh, here's rehypothecation. We define that for you, send it in. Then the guys in the office for Oxford would, mark it down for grammar, and they would change it a little bit, and they would add it. And they finally got the A's done. It took them like a year. And there was this huge controversy because Oxford found out that the guy that was just prolific, mailing in like 50% of the definitions for the A's, was living in an insane asylum. He was actually an American. And this was a massive controversy because the first people that got a hold of the information was like the London Times. And they're like, Oxford's like Harvard. Like, Harvard, your medical department's run by insane people, And so I kind of almost broke down because I was like, holy mackerel, this is the solution that I came up with to basically create a dictionary from scratch where I put the first word in, which was SLictionary, self-learning dictionary. And it was just the seed. And now we only have like 1,600 words. But every single person that puts a word in, and you're all experts at something. So if you're making Applejack whiskey in your backyard and you're one of the few people in the world that do that, I'm sorry, but an English professor in Cambridge, Massachusetts is not the guy to define that. You should define it. And same thing with Bitcoin. Why would an English professor who's writing for Merriam-Webster's define Bitcoin? Why not have Satoshi Nakamoto define it? And then furthermore, why not sign it so that you get a little chill down your spine and you go, oh my God. I mean, let's just say SLictionary existed 200 years ago and we've been using it the whole time. Well, then you would have Mr. Webster define dictionary, right? And that'd be an amazing artifact. It would be like a piece of art. He's dead, but his words live on. And that's what we're creating. We're basically creating an expert marketplace where literally anyone, whether you have no money, living in a poor country, or you're the richest man in the world and you're going to define Bitcoin, all those people can basically put their definitions into the dictionary, and you'll earn 0.7 of a penny every time someone goes, you know what? That's enlightening. And we use a light bulb. We don't have the Facebook upvote, but you hit the little light bulb. Call it the like bulb, but you hit that and you're literally paying the author. Took a little time, a little creativity, a little poetry. Your own voice can be in there. So, if you're U2 or Bono or something and you want to define U2 or a song, his voice can be in there. And so it's a really powerful model. And we couldn't do it without Bitcoin because you have to pay people these tiny amounts of money.
And when you say without Bitcoin, we've probably had some people arrive in the last couple of hours. How would you define Bitcoin? What does using Bitcoin mean? Because it might mean something different to you than a lot of people might use the word.
Yeah, I mean, to get really technical with the financial crowd here, Bitcoin's just the computational commodity. And if you look at the history of commodities, my favorite to compare Bitcoin to is the container industry. So what is a container? Well, it's this efficiency device that forces the entire industry, whether you're a ship, a shipping company, a truck, or a train, it all forces them to use the same dimensions of this shipping container. It doesn't matter what's in the shipping container. What matters is that everybody treats it the same. So the crane in China is the same dimensions as the crane in the United States. The rail gauge, it's all based on the rail gauge, right, which is even older than containers. But the point is, you don't bring down 1,000 boxes of bananas from the plank. You just pick up the banana container and you move it from here to there, and you eliminate 1,000 jobs by stevedores just by having a crane do it. Since it's universal, I actually calculated this, it's about 95 to 99% savings. And so what might Bitcoin be? Well, Bitcoin's just the commoditization of cloud. And I studied I was like you guys, I was a financial analyst looking for the best ROI stocks in the world. I came upon Amazon, bought it for I think $13 in 2001. Someone talked us out of it at 17 and it went to 5. He was right, and I blew the whole thing because it basically became Amazon. But the point was that when you're considering this containerization, the main point is that the container itself is an empty Bitcoin, what we know as money. And inside, you can put a computer program or you can put data. So what we put is the definition onto a coin, and it sits on about 50 cents worth of Bitcoin, and that container sits in your wallet, and you own it, and it basically commands all the rights to the incomes that come from the people using the dictionary. And the great thing about this is, since it's a commodity, but when it's filled, in other words, a shipping container is a commodity, but when it's filled with bananas or iPhones, it's no longer a commodity. It's a container full of bananas, and it has the value of the bananas. The container itself might be worth $30,000, but the iPhones or the bananas inside might be worth millions, right? But when you can always empty it, and when you empty it, it just goes back to being money, right? Just like the King Tut's mask has 300 ounces of gold in it, but if you melt it down and turn it into coins, well, then you have money. But if you're renting King Tut's mask in a German museum and it earns a cash flow, well, then it's no longer money, but it's still 300 ounces of gold.
So the bananas are the words on SLictionary, and
Right.
the money is Bitcoin.
The money is Bitcoin.
Okay.
So if you're an economics professor, you should study this because you should use SLictionary. Because if you go to SLictionary and after this, you're going to put up a $100 bounty for Unbounded. Actually, if you do $101, it'll be the record bounty. And it goes up on Word Bounty for $101, and anybody in the room can define it. It's a 1-week contest. If you win the contest, you win $100. But Zach, runner of Unbounded Capital, will own all of your definitions, whether you win or lose, right? So now, for the end of time, it could be 100 years from now, if someone's still looking up Unbounded, and you, ma'am, defined it the best, and you're sitting at the top of the queue because everybody likes your definition, and your grandkids are still making money on this thing, well, it all goes to Zach. And so he's like a real estate developer, right? In real estate, you don't build your own house. Someone builds it for you. You contract them. And Word Bounty is the same way. So that's how we're going to populate the dictionary. We're not sending out the flyer to all of you and begging you to define Applejack or vernacular or rehypothecation. We're basically paying you to do it by making you the owner.
Well, we couldn't not do that word bounty now, right?
What?
I said we couldn't not do the word bounty for Unbounded now after this.
But that's the beauty of it. You know about it, and when you come to the site, you'll go to Word Bounty, and you'll see that it's up there for $100. You just press the button, define it, and try your luck. Or not really luck, it's more of a skill, because the winner is by votes.
So last question for you, John. What do you see as the primary difference between definitions in, say, Merriam-Webster or the more common dictionaries and the definitions you see today on SLictionary?
Okay. Where this is all going is, think of the top 10 websites in the world, right? Google's number 1, YouTube's number 2, TikTok. There's a bunch of others. There's only one in the top 10 that isn't producing billionaires. So I'm going to make a little prediction for you about the difference between our dictionary and everybody else's. The only website in the top 10 of the world that's not producing billionaires is called Wikipedia, right? Now, I'll make a prediction. I think our company is going to be one of the biggest companies in the world. If I'm wrong, the prediction is it will be someone that copies our model, improves on it a little bit, and does it better than us. But I promise you right now, to all the investors in the room, you can either buy shares in our company and hope that we win, but if we come in second or third, probably going to be pretty good. But one thing I'll guarantee you is that this model for the dictionary, it isn't just going to apply to the dictionary. There's many other types of information it applies to, and this model is going to work because of the way we've structured it. And so what I'm basically saying is, I'm not going to come up here and say that we're going to be the Amazon of information. But what I will tell you is somebody's going to be, and it's probably going to be us, and it's our kind of game to lose. And so I think it's a super big, powerful model. And just like Amazon is no longer thought of as a bookstore, SLictionary is our first product. So we're building this ecosystem of creative people and financiers who buy and own the information. And once they develop on the dictionary, then we can transfer it to other types of information.
You heard it here first, everyone. Let's give a hand for John Pitts and SLictionary.